This podcast is brought to you by Keep Pulling, an Olympic weightlifting resource and USA Weightlifting community development training site located in Tampa, Florida. Find all things weightlifting, including coaching, training programs, community events, and so much more.
And LiftingLife, your go-to photography provider for every major USA weightlifting meet in the nation. They are also based in Florida and provide platform lifting sequences and videos, VIP photo packages, and so much more that is available to every single lifter. Capture the moment at LiftingLife. And now, it's time for the show. Yes,
Hey,
we're here
back again.
We got a
Guess
good
what
one
time
for
it
you.
is. It is episode 8 of the Keep Pulling podcast, and I just something about that song I could just like jam to it all day.
We got an awesome guest for today. His name, Pedro Meloni from USA Weightlifting. He's the event director. His actual title is, what was it? I call him Meet Director Extraordinaire. But he'll tell us all about himself soon. Where can you find us, Patrick?
Yeah, so make sure to follow us on social media. We're at Keep Pulling and at LiftingLife on Instagram. And you can find previous episodes of this podcast on our website, keeppulling.com. And if you like what you hear, drop us a review on iTunes. So thanks for listening, and let's get started.
All right, let's bring in Pedro. There he is. The man, the myth, the legend.
Oh, yeah.
All right,
How's it
Pedro,
going,
you're
guys?
in. It's going, man. It's good to see you.
Yeah. By the way, I used to joke that the official title is a King of Scotland.
Did you have a kilt?
I actually do, but that's just a joke.
So where are you right now?
I'm in Switzerland, in Lausanne. I'm collaborating with the IOC Boxing Task Force here for the past 5 to 6 months.
You've been in Switzerland 5 months? Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think you told me
That's
yesterday you're going to be there the rest of the year too.
Well, we don't really know because of the whole thing with the Olympic Games moving dates now.
Right.
So I guess that we'll figure out it pretty soon. We see so huge fish to fry with moving dates and all that. So I guess that answer is still unknown for us. Yeah.
Man, it's a heck of a life you lead. You're all over the place. Because you're from Brazil, right?
That's right.
What part? Because you show me a picture of it. It's very obscure. I'm not going to know it by seeing a picture of where that place is, but tell us a little about where you're from.
So I'm from this. It's a landlocked state in Brazil. It's very different from what you see in the pictures and what tourism in Brazil looks like. Called Minas Gerais. So that's where all the mines and the cattle comes from, right? So all the ore, all the iron ore, all the gold ore, that comes from Minas, right? So we're mountainside, we're country state. Everybody likes going to the beach and all that because that's what we do. But that's pretty much right. That's pretty much what it is. It's way closer to Colorado than it is to Rio. Let's put it that way.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Because when you're working in the States, you're based out of Colorado, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah, that's where the USOC is, up there in Colorado Springs, yes.
Correct. USOPC now, because now they're calling it the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee, right?
Awesome. Right. Now, when did that come about? I wasn't aware of that change. I mean, I'm not all things knowing of Olympic names, but That's an interesting change.
Yeah, well, they've been responsible for the Paralympics too for a while, and I think rightfully so. They changed it the last year that they added the Paralympics to the name. And to I love the change of the name. I just can't get used to the change of the acronyms. The change of the acronyms always throws me off because you get used to it,
USOPC.
like USOC, and
Right.
I say USOPC.
Well, I'm going to get into it with our first question for you, and it goes back to the title of the episode. We named this one "Which one is Pedro?" because that is easily one of the top 3 questions that we get when we're sitting there taking photos. People tap us on the back. Hey, which one is Pedro? Where can I find Pedro? Is it Pedro? Yeah, he's right over there. Long hair, Brazilian guy, looks like a soccer stud. I go, oh, I see him now.
Yeah,
what?
not
Oh, go
not
ahead.
to be
go ahead.
confused with Pablo.
Okay. So what is your role in USA weightlifting, and how long have you been doing that?
All right. So we started in 2000. I started in 2017, right, with USA weightlifting. Phil was working with me in 2016 for the Olympic Games, and during that time, the position of events director was open. So I decided to apply for that. So the role is pretty much all things events. It was all things events until 2018, like March 2018, February 2018, when it also became about sponsorships as well. So it became
That's right.
about events and sponsorships about that time.
So I've been seeing you handle a lot of sponsors too. That makes sense now.
Yeah.
Because whatever time
So
you
the
ask me, like,
sponsor-
hey, can we see the sponsor in the background of the photo? Are they in the shot? Is it visible? Like, where else can we put sponsor names? Now that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's important for those guys, right? And they're so supportive, and we have a huge, a very nice community of sponsors. Like, and those guys are investing a lot of, they're investing a lot of resources into U.S. lifters, and it's just fair that we contribute to that, you know.
Oh yeah, get them some screen time.
Yeah, it's cool to see that
Mhm,
grow
for
over
sure.
the years too, because I remember a couple of national meets that were just, I mean, there were maybe 1 or 2, and now there's, when we were in, where were we just at in Columbus, there was quite a bit of
Yeah.
vendors and, just in our room, in the USA weightlifting room.
Right.
So it's cool to see.
No, that's right, but the in at the Arnold, it's a little bit of a different story because the Arnold, it's a different meet for us, right? It's the
Right.
American
Okay.
Open Series inside the Arnold, right? So Columbus Weightlifting, they have their own sponsors too, that they will be in the competition. And one thing that it differs from there's a difference between like what our sponsors and what our vendors do. Some of our events, it will attract a lot of vendors, and that's just because we have like a bigger flow of people, right? If you have more people coming in, more vendors will be interested on coming to the event because they're over there mainly to sell goods, right?
Sure.
Whereas the sponsors are the ones that are supporting the organization through the whole year, right? So it's some like Nike, Ascent Protein, Romwad, Pre-Spectrum, all those. I don't want to name them all because otherwise, just
They're a big
right.
one.
There you go. There you go. So if we start here, I need to say 21 names.
Right.
I might miss one.
And we're out of time.
Yeah, go back and look at the photos
Yeah,
and see all the
that's
ones on
right.
the banner. That's the ones we're talking about.
That's right. That's right. Check USA Weightlifting website. They're all there.
There you go.
So you're telling me all you did was apply for the role, you applied for the job, and that's really how you got in? It wasn't like a who you know or you didn't have to weave your way in? It was just an application? But I'm sure you had
No,
an
it was
interview and
application.
everything.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And by that time, I was really heavily involved in weightlifting. I was the sport director, sport manager for the weightlifting competition in Rio too. I was heavily involved with the IWF. I had some roles inside the National Federation in Brazil as well. I used to run the training center of our college in Viçosa, Minas Gerais, which is which was at that time a big deal in Brazil in weightlifting and all that since 1980s. Nowadays, it's kind of slow, and Rio took over in terms of importance for the sport to the country. But yeah, so I was already heavily involved in weightlifting at that time.
Wow. And did you start out in weightlifting, or did you move into that? So did you start out in weightlifting, or were you able to move into that? Oh, we might have a connection issue.
We're dropping.
Yep.
Oh,
Seems
there we
like,
go.
Right?
Okay, we got him back.
Okay, sorry guys.
That's all right.
No,
Oh, by the way, he is in Switzerland. Did you originally start like all the meet directions and sports directions in weightlifting, or did you start in another sport and move into that?
I was a judo athlete during college, and we happened to share a wall with weightlifting for like the longest period. So the weightlifting training center and the judo training center were next to each other. So we ended up like becoming friends with the lifters, and that's how I got dragged to weightlifting like 2-3 years after I got into college.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, I think they're right next door to each other. And then at the youth nationals, jiu-jitsu was right around the corner. Oh, I was sorry. We might have a little drop in a connection here and there, but he is in Switzerland. He is our furthest away guest ever. So we might expect a glitch or two.
Let me see if I can switch networks here, guys.
Oh, okay. You might have to call back in. Are you on a cell or on Wi-Fi?
No. I'm on Wi-Fi, of course.
Oh, okay. Well, heck,
Let me
Switzerland.
see. Maybe. Yeah. You would think that the connection here would be good, right?
Well, I don't know. I bet the food's good.
It's expensive. I don't know if it's that good. It's very expensive.
All right. Well, let me know if you switch networks. That way you can call back in, and we'll talk in the background for you.
Okay. Let me see if I can switch network here and see what happens. All right.
Okay.
Just a second.
Sure thing.
Hold
All right. We're gonna wait for Pedro to come back. In the meantime, it's you and me, buddy.
This is what we call B-roll.
This is not dead air, but we're just gonna wait for Pedro to come back. There's a little bit of glitchy action, but it's probably based on the connection. I'm looking at my CPU, and that's at about 70 to 80%. So good on that.
When did you first meet him? Do you remember?
I think it was at his first meet in 2017. I don't know if I can remember the actual meet. Is the thing.
Yeah.
I remember I was asking questions. It might have been. Geez, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, either way, I was asking questions about this and that, and they're like, "You need to talk to Pedro." I'm like, who? Who's Pedro? Which one is Pedro?
Yeah.
This is his first meet, the first time I ever met him. So, yeah.
Let's see, I think it was American Open in Milwaukee. It was the first time I actually talked to him.
Let me pause the stream too. I'm gonna check one thing.
Yep.
So we're still recording the podcast, and that'll work. Okay. All right, fix that. We'll hear it playing in the background.
Are we streaming still?
It just turned back on.
Okay.
I had to pause it for a second to change the audio. Okay, we got Pedro back. Well, hey, look who's back.
Is it better now?
We shall
Sorry,
see.
guys. Blame Switzerland.
No,
That's
no,
okay.
you're fine.
That's okay. This is something that is not normally done. I'll put it that way. So I expect a little glitch or delay here and there. And he's connected. Okay, good.
All right. Yeah, for anyone just joining back, if we're coming back from a break here, this is Pedro Meloni, Director of Events for USA Weightlifting. So we touched a little bit about
Yeah, it's
touched a little
actually
bit.
really wobbly for me. I mean,
Oh.
I can barely hear you guys now.
Oh, you might want to go back to the other network. What do you think about that? I'm going to type him a message real quick. We'll get it back online.
Sorry, everybody.
Okay. Well, we see him moving.
Yeah, it looks like
We've got movement.
Can't hear you.
Oh, jeez. Same bus. That's good. That's good. That's good. Pedro, are you there?
Yeah, I can hear.
Okay.
It's coming in.
There we
going.
go. All right. Good deal.
Yeah.
I think that first network might have been better. You got different Wi-Fi networks out there. It's possible.
Yeah. They are. They're actually talking about how overload all the networks are.
Yeah, that
right
was the
now
other thing
here.
I was reading.
So
I had a trouble with
that
a
might be the
video call
source of the
like
problem.
this. Yeah, I had a trouble with video call like this the other day, and I started doing some research, and just the entire internet itself is being overloaded with Zoom, Skype, all these video meetings that people are doing. I don't know if we're in a peak time or what, but this is the only time we could really do it because he's 6 hours ahead of us, and we don't want to take his dinner away.
Yeah. Yeah, everything's going virtual nowadays, but that's probably what it is.
Yeah, I think we dropped him again.
Oh, man.
Well, shucks. Let me send him a text real quick. We'll keep streaming. Don't worry, guys. This happens in live production sometimes.
Yeah, he's totally frozen. Hang with us,
Yeah.
guys. We still have at least 6, 7 more questions for him.
Yeah,
I
big
think,
ones.
Yeah,
We're
it
gonna-
was
So we're going to go over his role in boxing,
Right.
his background in jiu-jitsu and judo, and talk about the Olympics. The next meet's coming up.
Mhm.
When we're ever going to see Pedro again.
Yeah. That's interesting to hear how they do it, where they have annual sponsors that contribute to every single meet, and then daily vendors, basically exhibitors, kind of like we do at the expo, where you can get your name all over everything, or you can just kind of show up for the day and sell stuff.
Yeah, and it is a lot different at the Arnold, but still having all the vendors there is a pretty big deal. He said he's
Yeah, I
switching
mean,
back
even
to
in
the other network.
Cool. Even in Memphis, just thinking like to actual nationals, there were, I mean, even Train Heroic was there, and they're one of the sponsors, I believe. But there were 1, 2, 3, 4 booths that I could think of. But you think back to like 2016, 2015, like in Dallas, there was literally no one.
Wow, that's right. The vendors was not something I particularly remember about Dallas.
There was one that did the spin that you won. We'll tell that story maybe. And there was another one that was selling belts. I do remember that. They were like custom stamping leather belts.
Yeah, and I actually bought a bracelet from them. I think
cool.
it's not in that bag. It's in the other bag.
Oh, dang.
Oh, hey, look who's back.
Hey.
Guess who's back? Pedro's back.
hopefully for good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
our poor internet worldwide.
All right.
All right.
All right, I'm gonna hit you with the second question before we die on the internet again. So speaking of, we touched a little bit on where you're at now and kind of what things look like internationally. But what's your travel schedule look like now, and how do the travel bans and any kind of like quarantining, if you want to call it that, how did that affect your travel schedule?
Those are crazy times, right? I mean, I used to have a super busy travel schedule, especially when I was in the US, because of the many meets that we had to go to, and site visits and site selection process, and even like sponsor visits and all this kind of stuff. Now, I believe that we are in the same situation as you guys are starting to get into over there. I can't leave my place without a good reason to.
Right.
So, I think this is day 20 for me here.
Wow.
It's been crazy. Yeah. So it's
Yeah,
been
I
it's
think we're
been
day
interesting.
11, so that's twice as long as us.
Yeah,
Well, from
and
the Florida
I'm
governor,
afraid
it's
it's gonna
only
last.
day 2.
Really?
Yeah, they put a statewide, stay-at-home order out. Well, last night actually.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems like every couple days or week they're extending it even farther.
But what about the other states? Do you guys have any intel on that?
Well, some states have it a lot worse than we do here in Florida. Like New York is what they call the epicenter. They have over 50,000 confirmed cases, while every other state, I think the highest one is 5,000, and that is Washington State. And yeah, New Orleans and Louisiana is starting to get it pretty bad, and Los Angeles now is starting to become worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate, but it's gonna hit everybody.
Yeah, it's going to be coming
It's
around.
just spread so easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've been doing our part, like big time, washing hands, washing face, sanitizing. Like at work, I go around sanitizing every common surface I can find at least once a day, because we're at minimum manning, but people still come in. They touch common things like door handles and elevator buttons, and I'm always wiping those down and making sure those are clean.
Yeah. But you're in essential work, right? We here in for everyone that is not a doctor, everyone that is not directly involved in healthcare or like groceries or pharmacies and all that, everybody is ordered to stay home and work from home. So schools are closed. It's been interesting.
We got that
Parks
here
are
too.
closed.
They close school for the rest of the year for a lot of places.
A school year, you would say, right?
Oh yeah, the school year
yeah.
is done.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. That's crazy.
Well, heck,
Same here.
it's a little
So,
wild because
so yeah, that
before all this, you were traveling nonstop. I mean, you're like high up on the platinum list on AA or something.
yeah, that's right. We used to joke in the office that if you wanted to mail me something, you would be better off mailing me stuff at the airport, the Colorado Springs airport. So just mail it to United; they would know where to find me.
Yeah. They bring you pretzels and a
And
snack and a drink and a package on the plane.
exactly. And it was funny because every now and then I would get food delivered from someone to the office, like a cake, or like St. Patrick's Day, they would send some candies or something to the office. Like I don't know. So most of the cities, they will have their sport commissions or their visitors bureau, and they would send like gifts to us, right? Say, hey, we thought on you about you. Here's, I don't know, pretzels, or here are some candies, or stuff like that, just to keep contact. And this is like this happens. So I started telling people in the office, hey, just go ahead and open all my boxes, because if there's food, you might as well.
Yeah, it's gonna go bad.
I remember for the World Championships in 2017 that I spent 40 days in Anaheim.
Wow.
The first day that I left to Anaheim, I got a package, and that package sat there in the office for like 60 days, right? And it was popcorn.
That's like stale
So
popcorn.
exactly. So after that, it was just, guys, just go ahead, open all my packages, and have some. If it's important, put it aside. Give it to me later.
It's a team gift now. It's all of
Correct.
ours.
Yeah, yeah, correct. So talking about travel schedule, it's fun because I ended up going to Wuhan, to the city that started all this.
Right.
Well, not the city that started, but where the
Where
first
is
cases
originated.
happened. Right. Yeah. So I went there in November, I guess, early November, because that was the first qualifying event, the boxing qualifying event that was supposed to happen. It was supposed to happen in Wuhan, and we
Wow.
actually were the first ones to cancel an event due to coronavirus.
Now, who makes that decision? Is that you, or is it the committee, or what?
No, it's bigger, way bigger than me here. It's way above my paycheck, but I'm involved, and everyone in the task force is involved on that, but we all we all discussed on what to do, and the Chinese Olympic Committee was involved as well. It's a joint decision in the end,
Right.
but it's because they were also surprised by the by by how the virus escalated and all that, because we were expecting to run the event normally. So for weeks we had, I don't know, I remember the first case was December 31st, and this is how closely we were monitoring it. We got it on December 31st, like 5 cases, and we're like, okay, well, 5 cases of a new virus, probably not
No
a big deal, right? Yeah, probably not a big deal, but we start monitoring. And then I clearly remember that on December 31st, the medical committee here already started investigating that, closely communicating with the Chinese and all that. And they were saying, okay, we have now 12 cases. We have now 19 cases. And for a while, we had, what, 40. And then it was a weekend, we had the first death, like January 16th. We're like, okay, this is starting to look worse, but still, it's a death, right, of a 70-something-year-old person. That, okay, very sorry that happened, but we're 7 billion people in the world. Sometimes people die, right?
Yes.
For sure, they die.
Definitely. As far as I know.
Exactly.
Not to put a
So
dark cloud over everything, but everybody will die at some point.
yeah,
Back
exactly.
to Pedro.
No more life philosophy, but yeah. So that happened, and then things escalated very quickly, and very soon it became obvious to us that Wuhan was shutting down, and we would have to call it off. And in 3 days, we announced the new host in Jordan, Amman, Jordan.
Okay.
So it was quite a ride, quite the ride.
And that's like
So
other side of the world.
yeah. So it was interesting because, I mean, I'm still in like close communication with the guys in the office, and Phil and all the guys. And I'm like, hey guys, I just got an event canceled. That sucks. It's bad. And they're like, oh, we feel your pain, and this and this and that. And we just got nationals canceled too. So
Yeah. So now they really do.
yeah.
And
But
while we're on that topic, I want to ask you about the nationals coming up. Just as a small break, is this going to be similar to how Youth Worlds was done and unis, where it was separate platforms for each, or is it going to be intertwined? Because what I'm worried about is the replay system. Is that going to still be in effect?
It's closer to what we had in the universities, Andy.
Okay.
So not really Youth Worlds. Youth Worlds was a different story, because you had the Word event going on one side, and you had the national event going on the other side of the hall. For nationals, it's going to be more like what we do when we run universities and under 25.
Okay, so all in the same sphere.
It's all mixed together.
Correct.
Cool.
Correct.
Very
And
interesting.
in the same platform, you have people lifting at both events, if not for both events.
Well, that should make
I
for
remember
some
that.
exciting sessions.
Yeah. In Vegas, when we ran the Youth Worlds, we ran the Las Vegas International Open,
Yes.
Youth Worlds, National University, and National Under 25. And I remember, I think it was Kobashigawa that he competed in National Under 25, National University, and Las Vegas International.
At the same time.
Oh, wow.
One lift, 3 medals.
That's right. That's
He's
right.
still snatching almost double body weight too.
Yeah.
It's pretty strong.
Pretty amazing.
It was neat to see the events merged as well at the Arnold, the Rogue International competition.
Yeah, that was challenging, and but I do believe that we made the right call with the Arnold and with everything that was going on.
I
That
agree.
we stood by the no spectators thing and health first, and I think our communication, and I have to tip my hat off to our communication team, that they did what I evaluate as a very good job on that, and say, hey guys, the governor orders are the no spectators and all that. I understand the Arnold side to try to have the spectators and try to have the expo, I believe, but in the end we we came in with like precise communication to everybody. It's unfortunate, but I mean, what can you do? That's what's called force majeure, right?
Yes.
Right.
And man, communication is so key in anything that having you guys being able to just talk back and forth at a high level is so important. Uh, was that already in place when you moved into USA Weightlifting? Did you help build that up?
I think the team grew a lot on that side of things. I think that from 2017 on, and that's much to Phil's and Kevin's work, Kevin Farley. They got that side of the things really sharp now. I think that I like to say that USA Weightlifting is a very transparent organization now on the things that we do. I mean, if there are bad news, you're gonna hear the bad news, straight as an arrow, And the qualification system, like it or not, that's the qualification system that we're using, and when it comes to registrations and my side of like events and dates, I had like friends, people that I consider friends, when I was still in the office, like taking calls and all that, calling me and say, "Hey, I missed the registration for a day, or I missed the registration for like 2 hours," and I'm like, "Sorry,
Yeah, you're
it's it's the same for all,
Yeah.
Sure.
It's called deadline.
So I believe correct, and I believe that part is key. You're being honest for the good and for the bad.
So I'm going to move on to our next question here, and I want to talk about your role in boxing and other sports like judo and jiu-jitsu. How are you able to practice a 1v1 sport in this time of social distancing?
That's a hard one, right? I mean,
I promised you no hard questions. I'm sorry.
Those athletes are suffering the most, for sure. I mean, you still can drill, right? You can still drill, do something, but not even close to what a lifter can do. You'll see some people like doing shadow boxing and skipping rope and running and working on the bags and all that. In jiu-jitsu, you can use dummies. In judo, you can use dummies. You can go for some mat work with the wall. There's a lot of takedowns that you kind of do the first part of the movement against the wall, right? But it's just hard for those guys. And I think that a lot of the Olympics being postponed, Andy, is due to that too. Not for jiu-jitsu, because there's no jiu-jitsu at the Olympics. But if you think of every other single
judo,
yeah,
fencing, yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
What are those guys doing? They're pretty much chilling. If you're a lifter, you go back to your garage. If you're fortunate to have like a home gym and you kind of takes care of that. Well, what about the swimmers that they need a pool that pools are closed?
Wow.
I don't know. There's so much into it. There's so much into it that those guys are just they have no choice.
So essentially, they're being granted an extra year of training to be able to get to the level that they expect themselves to be, or the level they would have been at had the Olympics not been postponed.
Yeah, that's a very simplistic way to think about this, because think about that. Those guys are working 4-year cycles, right?
Right.
So their whole training, it's like the periodization is made so they peak on the 4th year. They peak on the Olympics,
exactly.
Right? So the top performances is going to be on the Olympics, and next year was supposed to be when they are when they're unloading, right, in terms of performance. They have worse performances in 2021 than they had in 2020. And if you look at weightlifting results and world championships and Olympic games, you're going to see that it's like 2017, it's low. Then it comes 18, 19, 20, right? That's what it's expected. So that changes things up for those guys for sure. But yeah, essentially people are getting 1 more year, 365 more days to train to the Olympics, which is it's going to be a huge task for Tokyo, to put it on in July 2021. Think about this. If we're changing one of our events in USA Weightlifting, I need to call one hotel and one venue and say, "Hey guys, are you available for next year?"
But an
same
entire
dates.
city,
Yeah,
really an entire
right.
country, just about.
Correct. It's those guys. They need to get in contact with like 50 something venues. They have millions room nights booked in for 2020. What happens with that? And yeah, it's a huge task. Huge.
And that's a big part of why we're glad to have you on the show, is to get that insight of what goes behind these things, because a lot of us just don't know, like, what all is involved with running even a national meet or an international meet, the Olympics, because you've been involved in it all. You were in Rio. Can you touch on that for a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So it was the same thing. When I said that Tokyo moved to 2021, it's still called Tokyo 2020, right? I was just thinking that, well, I actually lived to see an Olympic Games being moved because I didn't even think it was possible, right? And just because, guys, there's so much that goes on, so much. The guys that you build the Olympic Village, right? You build the Olympic Village, and when you build it, you sell those apartments to someone, right?
Yeah.
And they're due to use those apartments in September 2020. Now they're not anymore. So what they're going to do about this? That there's just so much. And in Rio, we had a similar situation with Zika, if you guys remember.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
But Zika wasn't that much of a problem for. I mean, of course, Zika is a severe disease. Right. But what I'm saying is that it wasn't nearly as big in terms of cases as it is a coronavirus now, right?
That was a mosquito-borne illness too.
Correct. And the locals, the locals, and of course I'm included on that. We're like, okay, well, mosquitoes, and August, it's our winter, so there are not really a lot of mosquitoes going on and all that. So we kind of knew what was coming, right? So we knew it wouldn't be like a huge surge of cases and all that. But again, people get concerned, and rightfully so they are now with the coronavirus thing. But Rio was a very interesting experience too. Really, really interesting. From sport equipment arriving like in the last minutes, we managed to install the scoreboard like 3 hours before our first live competition to 1 billion people to watch.
Oh boy.
So it was always fun.
Nothing like some last minute stress.
Yeah, nothing like that. Nothing like that. I remember that for a while I was tired to talk about it. Just to talk about it, I was like, oh man, I feel so tired, because it was amazing in terms of like workload.
Lovely. Patrick's got a question for you.
Where are we at? Let's see.
Well, we were kind of talking about the quad and how Team USA is going to deal with that.
Yeah. So yeah, anything specific that the Team USA is going to do? Any training camp postponements or anything being relocated stateside?
Well, Mike Gattone and Lorene Hoffer, they take care of that side, right? But they're definitely like looking into relocating stuff and shuffling stuff around, just because right now we simply don't have where to go, right? And just to give a little bit more of insight on Tokyo, Team USA already had our training camp established in Tokyo far in advance. Rogue was shipping equipment there. We had lots of equipment being shipped to Tokyo already. All of that, we need to take a look at all that again. All the hotel room nights, that's kind of easy at this point because of the whole change. But think about like a supplement that Ascent donated. Some of that stuff might expire. Yeah, So there are all those little things that come into to organize those training camps, and when it comes to meets, it's the same. I mean, from the gloves that the medical staff use in the back room to the barbells, everything is equally important. If anything is missing, then we're in trouble, right?
Exactly. Well, heck, man, that's what I'm saying. There's just so much that goes. Like the logistics of putting something together like that is insane to me. Because I've never really been a part of it like that. But
All those minor
And I think that,
details begin to really add up.
yeah. And I think that for me, it was mostly what we were concerned about when I started. Like, let's get everything into like small little boxes. So we organize it again and again and again and again, and we do it over and over and over. Just repeat, 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 and create consistency. I think that was the biggest thing to get to our events, to get our events on what they are today in USA weightlifting. We just do the same thing over and over and over. I mean, we, of course, admittedly, there are things that we need to improve, and we don't have the expected consistency that we should have at that point in that area. But we're working to get all those small little processes inside the boxes to just get those moving.
And that brings me to my,
so you see,
that leads us into our next, my next thing here, because you've told me that your goal was to become, what you said, not necessary at national meets. And I know what you mean by that, but can you tell everybody that's watching exactly what that means? It doesn't mean you don't want to go. It just means you want people to be able to take up the slack in case you can't come, right?
It's actually the second, right? It's about getting everything so simplified, so inside the boxes that we just need to that everything works by itself, right? We got to a point where, and that's why we changed the system that we used to do before 2017. There's nothing wrong about anything. It's just that we started, USA Weightlifting started organizing 8 nationals a year in 2017, plus the Pan Ams, plus the World Championships in 17. Then 18 came, and with another, again, more international meets. Then 19 came with 2 more international meets. So that always happened. And when you were running an event per month, it become like super necessary for us to go and say, okay, we're gonna have a single checklist for everything that is like thousands of lines long. We're gonna have a dozen of processes that we just go one by one and tick those boxes. So, and it always starts like 45 days before I open, I used to call the boxes. Huh? I open box number 1 and I tick all those processes off. Then I put away box number 1, I pick up box number 2 with 35 days to go. Then I pick up box number 3 with 25 days to go. And then it comes until we're picking up like the last boxes, the last one with 7 days to go, 5 days to go, 3 days to go, and all those processes are there. So my point is that if at some point I'm not with the organization anymore, we have documentation on what to do.
And now you've got so much experience with each person on the team that they can really cover down. They have a history of weightlifting meets under their belt. That they can see the recurring issues that might occur, and they can quickly remedy those. A lot of times it's the scoreboard. Now that Les is doing kind of remote help, Les Simonton I'm talking about with the scoreboard. And he's like a lot of the guys there and girls, they already know how to dive into his software and fix any type of lockup.
Yeah, and that was the biggest thing for us, is to have like the same people over and over and again, because then you don't have rookies running around. You know, it's it's like, even with our AV, we always have the same guys. When it comes to video live streaming, we have Scott. When it comes to results, we have Les, or Les's system if Les is not around. So that creates consistency. At one point, people will pick up on that if you have a good product. Right.
Then you can really guarantee something.
Correct. And that's exactly what happened with us.
But
in the end, we were always using the same things and same people, and stuff started improving because of that. Like Les's system was it has been around for, I don't know, 10 years, 15 years or more that he used to run it. I remember that once I got to the US, I said, well, I'm going to go meet this guy. And I drove to Alabama to meet him in Auckland. Yeah.
He told me about that. It was like the first thing you did.
Yeah, exactly. So I said, well, I'm going to meet him. And we sat down in his garage. He set up a mock meet in his garage, and we ran over the system. And I'm like, okay, now let's produce this output. Let's try this. Let's try that. Let's see if the scoreboard works like this, works like that. And in the end, I was like, yeah, that will work. Let's push the start button here. And in juniors in Kansas City, we started using it, and we never looked back.
I remember that.
So,
I remember that.
Wow.
I do remember that. And I do remember, man, what a change from the old system to the current one. I mean, the old system, meets were running hours past their scheduled times due to software failures. And now, I mean, we're getting breaks like I've never had before. I'm getting like 45-minute breaks. Session ends early. I'm like, oh, I get to stand up. This is great. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with us at the tables like that all day. But yeah, I mean, do you remember Dallas and even Ogden? Those things ran into like 1 o'clock in the morning. Like we were leaving the venue.
I think it was Baton Rouge that went past midnight.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I was in Baton Rouge, man.
Yeah,
I was there. That was my first. And that's a great story too. That was my first USA weightlifting meet. 7 days or 3 days after the end of the Paralympic Games, the Rio 2016 Paralympic Games. So I went there because Phil said, "Hey, come see, come here to meet the staff, to see the event and all that." But we got there, the event had been relocated from
New Orleans.
From New Orleans, yeah.
Yep.
No, it had been relocated.
Oh no, it was in New Orleans.
This event was in New Orleans.
Oh.
We got relocated from Baton Rouge to New Orleans, right?
Okay.
In 2016.
Yeah,
right?
Because of the flooding. Yeah.
Exactly. So Matt Bruce was there with his volunteers, and there were just like a handful of them that he managed to bring them from Baton Rouge to New Orleans. So we were shorthanded on people. It was crazy amount of work, and we ended like, as you said, we ended at 1 a.m. every day or stuff like that.
Yeah, well, that was one of my favorite training halls to photograph too. It was an entire gymnasium. Everything was spread out, and I got to use my long lenses and got some really cool photos. Too. Yeah, that was so fun.
Yeah, that's right. It wasn't that fun for me though.
I can imagine. Yeah, I remember because we traveled for that one too with our team, and about 3 weeks, I want to say, before is when everything started shutting. You know, they started relocating stuff, and the floods kind of basically destroyed Baton Rouge. I mean, really. Then the relocations happened, and we had to change airfare and all kinds of stuff. So I can't even imagine on your end what it looked like for the event as a whole.
Yeah, that was crazy. And it was the first event of a new staff for USA Weightlifting too. So we had Jake at that time in his first event, Lance in his first or second event or something like this, Kevin in his first event. So it was like the first of a series of events that now that these guys, they all have like 30 weightlifting meets under their belts. But at that point, it was just nuts.
You talk about trial by fire. That's definitely one case example of people having to get together and work together as a team. Now, when you're planning these meets out, because this one had to move, was that already a secondary location that was on backup, like ready standby? Do you guys choose a backup location just in case?
Not often. Let's put it that way. When we decided for Daytona in September 2019, there was a backup location in Tampa that I even remember discussing this with you guys. Well, we might, because what was the name of the hurricane? I forgot now. Sorry.
Irma or something like
Sandy?
that.
Or Irma, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Last year?
Mm-hmm.
You sure it was Irma?
Maybe something else. Maybe I don't know.
Well,
I'm
in
bad
any
with
case,
names.
that one, that one had a backup location because of obvious reasons, right? It's not like we have signed a deal with another location, but we are looking, we're talking, we're discussing, say, hey, what's the possibility? Do you guys have the space open and all this kind of stuff, right? Even in with guys in Orlando and all that. But it's not every one of our events that will have a B plan like ready to go like this. And in Daytona, we were fortunate enough that the damage was minimal in the end for us. So that was fine. It turned out to be fine. But let's say in San Diego when we got there, and the loading dock of the hotel had just been imploded by the hotel, and we had to like
What?
manually do everything. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Wow.
You talking about recently? This was only a few
Yeah.
months
So
ago.
we got yeah. This is the Masters World Cup in
Okay.
San Diego.
Yeah. I did not know that.
So yeah, it's one of those. We got there and looking at the loading dock. I'm pretty sure there was a loading dock here. I mean, I'm not. Sometimes sometimes my memory, but not extent, right? And the hotel manager, yeah, we decided some reconstruction, so they imploded the dock the week of our event. I'm like, oh, that would have been like a nice heads up, that hey,
Man.
look, those 3 months to travel, you don't have anywhere else to put them. So
That's scary.
it was, yeah. Like we have like a backup location for situations like that. We don't. But for Daytona, for example, yeah.
Yeah, that was a huge meet. I would expect some kind of redundancy just in case. I mean, that was
Yeah.
1,300 people. Well, that does bring us into our next question. Patrick's going to cover this one.
Yeah, as far as large meets, so the largest meet in history was in Las Vegas, which I was not there, but Andy was. There was over 1,600 athletes. It was at American Open Series 3 a couple years ago.
That's right.
So what went into making this meet a reality, and when should we expect to see the largest meet, and this becomes the second largest meet in history?
Well, we're hopeful to have Vegas again in September this year, right? To be the first, the biggest event in history, right after the Olympics, right? We're still expecting it to be huge and probably the largest ever, right? So far, everything's on track for that. But so yeah, we're expecting that to beat Las Vegas 2018. Is that right? 2018.
18, I believe.
It's almost like a weird saying where the only thing that can beat Las Vegas is Las Vegas.
It's Las Vegas.
Yeah, people really like going to Las Vegas. It has cheap airfares. Hotels are somewhat cheap. Yeah, and people like going to Vegas. I'm not sure what is the final reason. I spent
I'm not gonna say.
days there. Yeah. I don't believe we can say it here, can we?
I'd rather not. Not that we partake in any of those things. We're just saying other people do or might.
We'll just say it's a lot. It's a lot to handle.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, and we stay there for for youth words, they stay there for like 20, 25 days. So
because that went on for 10 straight days.
That's right. With like a session per day in the end. It was, my God. I wanted to say, guys, let's go.
Wrap it up. I'm the director. We're wrapping.
Move along.
Move. Go to Wayne. Let's go.
That's funny.
But yeah, so to put an event like that, we first of all, we had to make sure that we had enough equipment, right? Because we're talking about 5 platforms.
4 days.
Originally, our hall, yeah, that's right. 4 days of competition. Originally, the competition hall wasn't that big, so we were lucky enough that the other half of the hall was empty, and we managed to snag that too with the hotel. We're lucky that the hotel had a huge flexibility in terms of rooms, so they could add more rooms for athletes. So they managed to book inside the same hotel, the Westgate, and stay on site. And it all comes to people too, right? We had to make sure that we had enough volunteers. So we had volunteers coming from, and you gotta remember that Vegas has a small community of lifters. If you compare that to the size of the meet that we were running, a meet with 1,600 people, and I think that Vegas has a 50-something registered USA weightlifters.
Wow!
Right?
There's only a few gyms that and one I can really think of off the top of my head, Average Bros.
Yeah, that's right. And Bros, he took over one platform for that meet, if I'm not mistaken. But all the other teams, even from Florida, I guess, from Florida, people took over one platform. From Four Star Strength took over another one. Washington took over another one, and I believe Idaho or Arizona took over another platform at that point.
Wow.
So we had to make that happen too in terms of people. Then technical officials, we had to make that happen in terms of technical officials. We had people coming from the Pan Am nations coming to officiate on that meet because we didn't have enough people, right?
Wow.
So yeah, lots of stuff. But again, thankfully to the process, it's just more. You know,
Right.
it becomes it's one event, right? That it's bigger, that we need to pay more attention to it, to this and that. But it's just more things instead of buying. When I see over there that the line of mine that says buy medical gloves, for this one it was still buy medical gloves but times 5.
Yeah, buy more.
Right.
So correct. So in the end, you're running the same thing. You need to pay more attention on other things not related to the competition in terms of like hotels, transportation, and this kind of stuff. But on the process side, it's just okay. We do it. We just did it this in July. We're gonna do this again in September. It's just bigger, just more stuff. It is different, Pat, when you add more stakeholders. So when you add like broadcasting that we had in the World Championships, or when you add stricter doping control, or and this and that, then you are adding stakeholders, and that's when stuff starts getting complicated. If not, it's just more. We do this and we do more of this. You know, it's very simplistic to me to say like this, but again, the crew is also very experienced, and
Right.
we've been working together for a while. So that's
Essentially, it's
super
a modular system where
it is
yeah,
absolutely
you can quickly add more. I guess the only hard part would be people, because that's not a
Exactly.
finite resource.
Yeah, Andy and I have talked about this together. Where we run events here in Tampa, and we've started with one single platform, and now our local meets have grown to running 2 platforms. And so the way we look at it is, when you add a platform, you're basically running 2 meets at the same time. So one platform is doing its own thing, and then the other one is kind of doing its own, as a larger meet together, but each one has its own, like you say, technical officials, referees, loaders. So you say times 5. So yeah, you just, like, say if you were to add a 6th platform, then you need, all those 3 more loaders, 1 more announcer, 1 more technical official. So it just, but each one is kind of its own little self-contained meet, but it's all part of the greater schedule. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty much the secret to make this things run smoothly, is to consider all those platforms their small little world. So it doesn't matter what's happening on the Stars platform. If Red is going on well, Red finish on time, they start their session on time, and so on and so forth. So I believe that's the secret. Everything is you're basically running 5 times one platform. You're not running one meet with 5 platforms.
Right. And that does help with scheduling. I like how you guys do the schedule, and I believe it's automated mostly, right? Or how much fine tuning do you put into that schedule?
That schedule takes us like 3 to 4 hours of fine tuning.
Wow,
that's not automated at all.
Well, I thought you hit a button and the software would spit out a rough draft, and then you would go in and tune it up.
No, we've discussed. I discussed this with Laffer. That would be great.
Oh, I thought that's what I thought happened.
Button, right?
He's like, that's a great idea.
No. I discussed that with Les in terms of like what we can do. Can we create a scheduling wizard to the software where I say I have 35 lifters, give me a schedule for 3 sessions, right? And of course I say 35 lifters, but if I can say that 35 lifters, I can then extrapolate to 350 lifters, and then I can extrapolate to 1,350 lifters, and I will still receive a schedule from the system, right? So, but that never took off due to other priorities in the system. So the first draft of the schedule that you see on the website, the one that we release a month before the event, that's
Mhm.
all that's all manual. I
Wow, I did
created
not
like
know that.
yeah, I created the spreadsheets that I kind of used to kind of automate it my way, but it's still 100% manual. And that first draft, that first schedule, the preliminary schedule that we say, it takes me about 6 hours. And then after the verification of final entries, after we finish with all the changes and all that, then it takes me more like 4 more hours. Then
Wow.
it's usually like a phone call between me and Les, both of us on speaker, and say, okay, move this here, move this there, 10 minutes more here, 20 minutes less there. This one starts at 5, this one starts at 7, and boom, 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 until you have the final schedule that so far has been, I mean, we're having success in keeping stuff on time. So
I would say this
keep using.
blows my mind that you're
Definitely.
doing this by yourself. I had no idea because when I see that schedule, I mean, it is perfect. The formatting is perfect.
Yeah.
It looked like something that a computer would spit out automatically. And the
Oh no,
times,
the
like
format, yeah.
this, well, the sessions, the times you're putting in, they are like right on the money. You're building in like 10 to 15 minute breaks or giving yourself a buffer
Yeah,
to get to the next session. And I'll tell you what, man, they have been on point for the last year or two.
Yeah.
yeah, that's 100% manual. Like the scheduling times and amount of people per session, that's 100% manual. Of course, the format and how nice it looks, that's of course generated automatically by the system. But it generates it. Then me and Les we go like session by session. We don't look at the athletes. We don't know who's competing where. And that's for me. That's the biggest part of it. So I keep it to myself. This little rule that I have absolutely no idea who's lifting in which category or which bodyweight division. And it's funny because I really enjoy watching lifting, right? Watching weightlifting.
Hmm.
And I usually like even world championships. Like when I was working in Turkmenistan for the 2018, people were like, "Oh, sir, did you see who's lifting in session XYZ?" I'm like, I have no idea. I
This
mean,
just happens. It's a movie in the background for
yeah,
me.
Right.
exactly. I mean, I know that I don't know. I know that Fernando was lifting in the plus 109 because I see him, right?
Right.
And because I expect him to lift in the A session at plus 109. But it's not like I'm following the start list and this and this and that because I don't want to know because otherwise I might make decisions. Not that I will, but it wouldn't help to know that my friend is in session A or session B or session C or whatever. So we go
Hmm.
one by one, session per session, group by group, and we go, okay, trim 10 minutes here, add 10 minutes there, trim 5 minutes here, move this one here. So, and even when you see like, if you have like platform red with 15 athletes, then likely the next session they won't have 15 athletes. They will have less athletes so they can catch up on time with
Hmm.
the other platforms in a way that it makes sense.
So
So
you're able to visualize essentially an entire meet, um, and get it on the paper,
yeah,
like to the T. Nikola Tesla used to do
Very,
that.
very accurately. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very amazing. I mean, I kind of
yeah, that
expect
was,
a minute to a minute 15 per lifter as an average figure, and maybe in some weight classes it's going to be a lot more 2 minute clocks, and maybe you can factor that in.
yeah,
But I mean, you're nailing it. You and Les are nailing it.
yeah. The software does a good job on that too. I mean, it
Oh,
helps
oh,
us.
don't put it on the software. You did great, sir.
Thanks, Karen.
Well, we do see you run around a lot at meets, and that does bring us to our next question here. Your workflow as the meet director. Well, we already covered kind of planning and execution, but what's your workflow at the meet? Like, let's say one of your early meets, one of your first 5, where you're taking on a lot of workload. What was your flow compared to now, where you can come in and let other people kind of handle things? How has that evolved, and what was involved?
I think that it all depends on how much people we have there, right? I usually work with 5 people when we go to events. So when we go to the meets, we have 5 people. We have someone that will take care of registration, someone that will take care of signage, medical area, someone that will take care of the back of house, like warm-up area and training hall, and 2 people that will stay in the field of play, right?
And
So
when you
it
say
all
field of
depends on the
play, I don't mean to interrupt you, but field of play as far as what?
everything that you see, Andy, is the field of play.
Okay.
That you, when you're sitting down there with your camera, you and Pat, everything is for us is the field of play. Behind that, warm-up area, training hall on the other
Okay.
side, or in another venue. So everything that your lenses see, that's the field of play,
Okay.
right? And usually the person that's taking care of signage and medical and all things attached to the event, that person will handle the spectators area, concessions, and this kind of stuff too. And so the workflow is basically the biggest thing is to start the thing up on time. So we come in, we check in with the local club. The local clubs, they have a huge importance in the way that we're running our meets today, right? It used to be, and that's before my time, and that's probably before even Phil's time too, that the local clubs would 100% organize and run the national meets, right? So you would award an event to a certain city, and that local club of that certain city would organize it from scratch. So that led to many inconsistencies, right? So maybe one city would be able to do a great job, and the next city wouldn't. So the deliverable wouldn't be consistent.
Right.
What we do now is that although those guys are not doing this anymore, we really rely on them for people, for workforce, right? So for loaders, for people that are actually helping running the meet. Because, and when I say that my goal is to become not important in the meet, is that the way I see it, once we press the start button for an event, the loader is 10 times more important than I am. You know, if everything is running smoothly, the guy loading the barbell is much more important than me, because he's the one keeping it running, right? It's running by itself.
At that
right?
point,
But
yes.
it's only running, correct. It's only running by itself because he's loading the barbell, he or she or that group of people, that group of loaders. So the workflow is pretty much get there 1 to 2 hours before the first session, make sure that we receive all the information from the weighing sheets, input that into the system, do like a sweep to check if everything is in place, if we have microphones working, if we have monitors working, if we have chalk, equipment is already triple checked the night before, like sport equipment, and then that's pretty much what it is. We press start 8 a.m. sharp every single day, every single meet. We still haven't failed on that. So press start at 8 a.m. competition starts, and then off it goes. And then it's just like we receive the results after the competition is finished. We enter that into the website. We publish them immediately. So I believe that then it all fall again into our little processes that we have like already like wrote down to very detailed what you need to do as soon as the session is over, how we're going to see that is published, and then it comes social media, etc., etc., etc. So that is like a standard operation procedure. That is pretty cool.
Speaking about starting on time and how you said that every meet so far has started on time, that's something I never really thought about. But when you said that, I was like, you know what? I've never had to ask myself if they're going to start on time today. You guys are always right on time. Like if the schedule says 7:30 intro, it's going to be 7:30, and that's my deadline to be ready.
Oh yeah, and that's a great thing too. I mean, we got to a point, and that people don't ask those questions, and that's great. As an organization, that's great, because they don't ask the questions: is the meet's going to be on time? Are we running late? If I'm not saying that it never happens. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes we're 5 minutes late. Sometimes we're 10 minutes late. Stuff happens, but people are not expecting it to be late. People are not walking around saying, "Oh my God, did you guys remember to bring chalk?" Yeah,
we got chalk.
The 40 times before, yes, you know. So you build that sense of confidence that I believe it's super important. And the key thing here again is that we're working with the same people, right? So the same people again and again and again, they're like, oh, they got it, they got it, they got it, they got it, because we do got it. So, and we managed to build that confidence early on, and I believe that made the job like 30 times easier than it was than what was. Yeah. So the first one, of course, was more difficult, and then it immediately started getting easier because people know that we got it, and then just people chill, people relax, and they enjoy the competition.
Exactly.
Right?
And I think Patrick and I are silently relating to your story more and more with the meets that he puts on. Every evolution you're talking about is the same thing we go through. Like if I'm announcing one of our meets and I'm told that our card counter is going to be this person, I'm like, okay, good, because I've worked with that person before and they know exactly what they're doing. And
exactly.
Yeah, and earlier you referred to the events. You used the word deliverable, which I thought was really great because going back to consistency of product. I mean, the events are essentially a product that you're offering or like a service, right? So the more you do it and the more you refine it, which we've seen over the years too, the more people will expect that high consistency of product, which, like you said, they don't ask, is it going to start on time? They don't ask if chalk's going to be there. They don't ask if, I wonder what happens if the software is going to crash. Well, that doesn't happen anymore, and it's such a high quality of product now that, it's always being delivered the same way, which I think is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, we try to make changes and we try to implement new things, but even those, we drop the change pills little by little, and we see how we're very clever, I believe, on not making lots of changes super quick, because that would throw everybody off, So changes, they happen gradually, like the moving scoreboard to a static scoreboard on the back. Then now that we're looking into using one scoreboard per event, and me and Andy, we talked about it, and even Andy, I mean, we've been talking about this, and you see how slow it is to get to the process that we finally go and say, okay, let's do this.
I did promise you some information, and I am working on it. I just have a lot. I need to I want to make it a presentation that you say, okay, this makes perfect sense, and this I can see how this. I don't want you asking like little minute questions. I want you to see the big picture. So I'm still working on putting all that together for you. So don't worry, it's coming. Big things coming. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. But yeah, the small changes are definitely, I mean, over time they do get noticed, but we're the same. I mean, it's the same as training someone in any sport. You don't want to change everything about, say, a certain technique all at once. Like, hey, let's try everything differently. It's just, maybe move your feet a little bit, or maybe move your grip out just a little bit, and then that way it adds up to bigger things in the long run. Then, like you said, it won't throw everyone off.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole idea. You go little by little, and you see how it goes in the end, and everything is thought about, everything is discussed. It's not like some people woke up in the wrong side of the bed and said, you know what, we're gonna do this. And
now I have leaned on you. It was one time, it was like maybe the biggest favor I've ever asked. I had to shoot, I think it was when I had to shoot a VIP photo package where I followed them around the back, but they were on like the red platform. And I was also asked to do some advertising photos for a lifter on like the furthest platform possible. I was like, Pedro, I'm begging you, this is a big request. Can we switch these two platforms so my two photo people are adjacent to each other? And you did it, and man, I'm telling you that I told after the session was done, I told the lifter what you did for them, and they were forever grateful. Like they couldn't believe they didn't know why it moved. First of all, and I told them why. I was like, it's because of you, because we wanted to make sure that we have your photos, and we didn't want to miss anything.
Yeah, but so let's just be clear. This was at least like 6 hours in advance.
Right. It wasn't spur of the moment, but it
was like, okay, guys. Because for us, it really doesn't matter. If for an athlete point of view, it doesn't matter if he's lifting on red, blue, or red, white, or blue. I mean, it's a platform anyway, right?
Right.
So those changes that they don't affect schedule and all that. And so, yeah, that was easy to do. It happens sometimes when we need to catch up, though. So when we see that one
Oh, yeah,
platform
one
is
gets
lagging,
behind.
yeah, and then we made those changes, like, because then, I mean, we catch up with the event and everybody finishes on time. I still do believe that people like to get dinner after
Yeah.
14 hours.
We do.
Yeah, yeah, we certainly do.
Yeah. Heck, the hard part is trying to decide between eating and sleeping sometimes.
Yeah.
Because like, if I eat, then I'm going to lose an hour and a half of sleep, and I want to be fully prepared for the next day. Just because of what we do, we
Yeah.
need to be fully engaged.
But you know what, Andy? I came to realize that the next day I'm always tired regardless. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna eat some, because if I sleep 7 hours or if I sleep 5 hours, I'm gonna be tired the next day anyways.
That's true. Yeah, it does just help me in the long run. That is my one request. I'll just ask you now. The 8-session days, those are rough on us. I'll just let you know right now. When it gets to be 16+ hours shooting photos, that kind of takes a toll. But I see why it's necessary when you only have like 3 days. That like the Arnold, there was 4 days, but Sunday had to be like kind of a 3/4 day, so everything was kind of front loaded on the Thursday, and that one went, I think, seven sessions.
That
Yeah.
Thursday.
Yeah, 7 sessions a day. That's and at the Arnold, you're talking about 7 sessions of 2-hour sessions. So
Right.
it's still okay. Sometimes we had like 2 hours 15 to 2 hours 20.
Right.
Just kills people. 7 sessions a day is a lot of lifting going on.
And I completely
one of
understand why that has to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just something we mentally overcome eventually. But yeah, it's it's a challenge. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, we used to do bigger sessions and thus less sessions a day, right? So sessions used to have like 14 to 15 people. But one of the things that in our surveys we started to notice, and I read every single answer of those surveys, believe me, I've read 100% of them, and people in the office, like our Sunday dinners, they're always like making fun of it, of like, man, stop this game. But I just like it. I just go in and say, I don't care. I'm gonna read everything again and again. And one of the things that we always notice is that people said, hey, it's difficult to share platforms and this and this and that. Too many people to a platform.
Yeah, the
and we said, you know what? Yeah. So if we stick to 12, 13 people, you're gonna have the vast majority of the athletes sharing a platform with someone else, which shouldn't be a problem to anyone, right? In a national level meet. So that's why. But again, if you do 12 people or 13 people per session, you're running a longer event than if you put 15 to 16 people per session, because you have more intros, you have more 10 minutes breaks, etc., etc. So it's harder in terms of like time, but it's better to the athletes, and that's why we've been running like 12, 13 people per platform.
Speaking of the breaks, like the 10-minute versus 5-minute, what's your rule on that? So they were saying, oh, it's more than 10 people in a session, we're going to take a 5-minute break between clean and jerk, or it's less than 10, we'll do a 10-minute break.
The rule, the IWF rule doesn't it gives like complete opening to the jury to decide how much time is gonna do. It's 10 minutes are the recommended ones, but you can go from anywhere to 1 to 1,000, right? I mean, there's literally no mention. There's literally no mention to minimum or maximum in the IWF rule book. So it kind of a little bit of feeling for us. 10 minutes is what you can expect 95% of the times. But some meets, we just go ahead and announce in advance that, hey guys, like youth nationals for the under 13, under 11 kids, we just went ahead and announced to everybody, say, hey, it's going to be 5 minutes break. And you're talking about 13-year-old kids, you're talking about 11-year-old kids, just go there and take your lift and all that.
That's some of the fastest lifting you'll see. Like you're doing 8 sessions in a day, but I mean the sessions were taking an hour and a half or less.
Correct.
Because these kids sprint up, lift the weight, sprint back. Next kid's up. It's like almost faster than the announcer can keep up with.
Yeah, and it's fine for them. it reaches the purpose of the youth nationals too. We want to see lots of kids. We want to see them having fun. We don't want them sitting there and waiting and the competition dragging. You know what I mean, right? You don't want to see that kid like stealing clocks and it's just sometimes. Sometimes I see that at youth nationals. I'm like, come on, man, he's 11.
Someone burns a 2-minute clock for like an 11-year-old. We'll teach him a lesson.
Exactly. I'm like, what's going on? Just let the kid go,
Yeah.
That's funny.
It's like
We've seen some 15-minute breaks too. If there's like 4 or 5 in a session, then they'll do a 15-minute break. But which brings me to another point: the Nationals online qualifier, the video submissions. I think one of the rules was there has to be an hour between snatch and clean and jerk.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Is it safe to say that at least an hour between someone's last snatch and their first clean and jerk is the time frame we're possibly looking at here? But that's tough if someone closes snatches and opens clean and jerks, which happens a lot. I mean,
yeah, it happens a lot too. I mean, you can't. It depends on the athlete. It depends on the group that you are at. You can expect, for example, Matt Same and the super heavyweight. He's going to be one of the first ones to end snatching, and he's going to be one of the last ones doing the clean and jerk. So he's going to probably have 1 hour in between, and he probably needs it. Mm-hmm. But he's going to have a long time. Someone who's a strong snatcher, like Arroyo from Ecuador, he would. Yeah, no, David Arroyo.
Oh, David
Arroyo. Yeah, Arroyo like snatched 190 and clean jerk 195 in one of the last events. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I think it was World Championships. He snatched 190 and clean jerk 195. So
wow.
Yeah. He's gonna do the last one, and then the first one is gonna have like 15 to 20 minutes. And he actually had, I believe he actually had like 15 minutes in between his last attempt of the snatch and the first attempt of the clean jerk. Because
be an athlete.
He was just like, it's you, buddy, it's you again. So it's not like you really can expect to have an hour in like a live competition. But in the online one, we adopted that rule just to keep it like consistent between everybody.
Right. Mm-hmm. That was a good idea. I agree.
Yeah. And I think more than that, I think the competitions is the online competitions is a way to keep the community involved too. So that idea came from the office, and they were quick to set that up with the news of the nationals was going to get canceled. We were watching the situation with Lombard for a while, and when it became obvious to us that it was going to be impossible, people were quick to pull the plug and to announce membership and come together with like, hey, we're postponing it, not canceling, right? We're postponing,
exactly.
But here's the plan B, and here's what's happening now.
Right, you didn't just postpone it and say, well, we'll come back with more later when we figure it out. You already had a plan in place, and boom, here's what's happening.
That's right.
So the actual postponement part was just went by fast. Everybody started looking at what's coming next, and they were able to focus on the good of what's coming instead of the unfortunate postponement.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, nobody likes postponing events, but nowadays it's just a rule, right? I remember when we postponed Wuhan here. I'm like, man, first postponed event ever, and then and then the whole world said, you know what, we're gonna postpone everything.
The postponed right here, Pedro Meloni, and of course other people who helped make a decision. But yes, that's man, you're at the forefront. You're at the bleeding edge of postponements here.
We were. I'm patient zero. Wuhan patient ground zero.
That's frightening too. Yeah, I mean, you were like in the area before the bombs hit. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I was actually supposed to be there 2 days before they shut down the city.
Oh my gosh.
So if my plane was 2 days earlier, which was possible, I would still be in Wuhan right now.
It'd be a whole different scary situations, man. I don't even like to think about those.
Yeah, absolutely. I just missed that. Me and a colleague here, Jeff, we were supposed to be there.
I got a question about international meets. Like
Go.
let's say Turkmenistan. What was your involvement there? And then, of course, we have Worlds in Anaheim. Did you play a large part in that planning, or is it mostly the IWF?
So the IWF called me and Reiko Chinen from Japan to help that event, to help planning on that event. We got there 10 days before, so we did everything that it was possible to do from 10 days on, right? So everything really regarding scheduling, everything regarding fine tuning, content on the scoreboards, sport presentation, everything was done by us. So I took one part. I took more the content, the sport presentation, and the TV side of it. And Reiko took more on the part of like being on at the wings and this kind of stuff. Reiko is, by the way, the sport manager to Tokyo 2022. So that's how we divided it. Of course, when we got to Turkmenistan and I got there like 10 to 12 days before, they had everything built already and waiting for it. So they had everything on place. The Lico bars were there and they were ready to go. Platforms were ready. We did like work on the stage. I remember working with them on the stage to level it, to reinforce it, because the way that they built wasn't necessarily the proper stage. So we had to rebuild that, but everything was absolutely ready. 12 days to go in a venue that was completely blocked for weightlifting. So that was pretty amazing. Like huge backdrops that they were quick to replace if we said anything about it. If we said like, hey, there's a mistake here, or we can't have this here, they would like tear down the whole wall and build up again the next day. So, so it was a different experience for sure. And then in terms of like international, but again, that's Turkmenistan. They have loads of money and they have a huge capacity to do stuff. When it comes to like, if it demands resources, they have those resources. They have the money, right? That's no secret to anyone. And right, I mean, where the money is coming from, don't ask me.
Don't ask, don't tell. It's there. Just be thankful it's there.
Correct, pretty much. I still remember that every night when we were going to sleep in the hotels, and before shutting down my lights, I would say, "Goodbye, Mr. Agent. Hope you had a great night."
Oh, big brother.
Yeah, goodbye. I'll be here the whole night, I hope. See you tomorrow. Talk to you soon. Don't mind the noises that I do while I'm sleeping. So,
Oh, man.
yeah. So that was interesting. That was a pretty cool experience. I used to say that if we ever colonize Mars, it's gonna look a lot like Ashgabat. It's out of this world. Like,
Just kind of desert, and then all of a sudden a city. Like some of the pictures I saw, I just straight sand dunes. Then there's a road and an entire city.
Yeah, made of marble, made of white marble. So,
yeah, that's crazy.
Like 80% of the buildings in a certain area, like 80-something% of the buildings are white marble. So it's just crazy. And they're old, like they're old people there in terms of like they've been living there forever. So they have an old history in that place. It's really interesting, really interesting. And and then you have the other side of the coin. When I ran the Junior World Championships in Fiji, that then my involvement was much more like, okay, let's get things done here, let's build it together, and all that. That was much more like hands-on in terms of, okay, take pipes and put it and set up like the place where the AC was going to be. So Fiji was much more hands-on, but an equally high level competition that they delivered there. And then there's Anaheim, that was much more like do everything. We had to do everything because we were the organizing committee. Just to give you guys perspective, in 2017 in Anaheim, we were a team of 12 people doing everything, right? So the whole staff, whole USA weightlifting staff, 12 to 14 people, plus the Visit Anaheim staff with 3 people. in 2018 in Turkmenistan to run the same World Championships, I'm pretty sure that just on the management level, I had like meetings with like 50 people. And then on the operational level, they had at least 200 and something people.
Wow.
So
Jeez.
when we talk about the quality of the people that work with USA weightlifting nowadays and their ability to pull the events, I don't think we can look lightly into that. Those guys are like really used to hard work and to get things done, and they know what they're doing.
I'll tell you, the word that
when it
comes to
comes to
mind is professional.
Yeah,
They are professionals at what they do. They don't panic. They have answers. They know how to get to a solution fast, and it's really
Yeah.
great. I'm thinking when there's like 200 plus people in a boardroom meeting versus the 12 to 15 over here. Which do you prefer trying to work with?
For sure with the 12.
Good
For
answer.
sure, because the problem with like 250 people is that everyone is a manager or a director. You know, you have like a boardroom full of people. Nobody is gonna do anything. You know, nobody is
true.
actually gonna. That's a general feeling. You know, people are not
Right.
like looking forward to pull stuff into their plate. So they're like, no, it's not for me. This is not high
Yeah,
enough.
this is
Still
someone
not high
else's
enough for me.
job. Give it to this guy.
Correct. Yeah, find Jimmy and ask Jimmy to do it. You know, it's and in USA weightlifting, I mean, we have when let's put the whatever event in Vegas. All those guys working there, all those guys are like pulling weight working there. Junior nationals this year, the series one this year that I wasn't. All those guys, they have their regular jobs in USA weightlifting. They're Susie is director of programs and development. Kelsey is communications. JP is coaching education, and all those guys. Brad is memberships. They don't answer to events in our organogram. They're not under the events organogram, right? But they're
Right.
still over there and they're still pulling all that weight, whereas they still have their jobs. So you know what I mean? It's like they transition from their place in the organogram to under events briefly for that event, and then they come back to their original place in the organization. But and that doesn't create like any kind of attrition between the team. You know what I mean? So those guys
Right.
are quick to like, okay, we have to do this. This is the task. Who is distributing the tasks? I'll grab my task. I'll do my task. If someone needs help, I'll help them with their tasks, and by the end, we'll have a full product.
Right.
It's about
It's not
trust.
done until if your work is done, you start helping someone else with their work.
Correct. And everybody's also confident that by the end of like, I do my little share, you do your small share, you do your small share. By the end, the product's going to be complete, and you have a full thing going on.
I think Team
You know?
USA weightlifting is a shining example of what teamwork is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, really is. And I was thinking about this here, and when you were saying we were talking about setup. In any other situation, Andy, if you guys showed up to like the event, show starts on Friday, 8 a.m. By 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. on Thursday, the photo guys haven't showed up yet, people would be freaking out, right?
Oh, yeah.
In our case,
I would.
in our case, we just know that you guys are coming. You know, we know that you
Right.
guys are coming. We love what you guys do, and we know that it's gonna be okay. Well, they got it. They got their share. If you don't know, if you know that you have problems or something, you're gonna let us know.
Oh,
So
100%.
it all works out. Yeah. So it all works out because of that. So you have this general level of confidence, this general level of the confidence really that makes things easier. And that's only because we've been working together again and again and again.
For years, we try to be just as reliable as you guys are.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna say
absolutely.
there's instances where we're done setting up cameras or we're on a break or something, and we'll go in the back and say, hey, you need help with TVs or moving stuff around, like
Yeah.
we were also quick
Mhm.
to help out because we know
Yeah.
many hands make light work.
That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
Exactly.
And just to
For sure.
put for people that don't know, to give a little more perspective, Pedro isn't just a decision maker. He is a hands-on. He's going to lift it. It's got wheels. He's going to drive it. I mean, if it needs doing, he's going to do it. No questions asked. My favorite parts.
Yeah.
I take so many extra photos when you're loading. I think there was a session where you, Phil Andrews, and Susie Sanchez were all loading, and Kelsey too. Kelsey was in that too. It was all four of you. You were the loading team, and I think I took
Loading,
just as
yeah,
many
there you go.
pictures of you guys loading as I did the lifters lifting, because I was like, this is cool. I love it.
Oh,
Pedro
man,
helps
yeah.
build the platforms. He's helping clean up, like
Yeah,
moving all those little
lead by
carpet squares.
example.
Yeah.
I've built my share of platforms.
Yeah.
They're so heavy. Oh my god.
Well, each one of those
They
beams
used to be
weighs
so
like
heavy.
400
Now
something
they're
pounds,
lighter.
right?
Yeah. Well, now I think we got into a better like model of platforms. They're not
Okay.
that heavy anymore. We got too light in one of them, and we'll have to re-engineer that.
Yeah.
but
I'm not going to
I
say the
think
brand name, but I know which one you're talking about. I think it was like pine filled
Yeah.
with a hardwood exterior, and those were just cracking
Yeah,
up.
but the rogue ones are pretty much perfect.
Yeah, those
that's
are all
that's
oak.
the
Those
standard.
are
one. Yeah.
legit.
Mhm.
But they're not extremely heavy. That's the point. So you can move
Right.
them around.
Yeah, one pallet, one forklift will move it.
Exactly. And it's funny because again, everyone. By the way, everyone in the office is forklift driver certified.
Oh, good. Good to know.
Oh,
Yeah. So we certified everybody just because of that. Because at one point we said, you know what, anyone needs to be able to do anything. So we got everybody certified to drive forklifts, and we all did online certifications. But yes, everyone's certified.
That's funny. That reminds me in Vegas, Kelsey was driving a forklift, and I was taking
Oh
her
my God.
pictures. I was like, we're going to do some modeling right now while you drive with empty forks. Here we go.
I'm not sure if she's certified though.
Oh, never mind.
oh, just kidding. She wasn't. It was Susie.
All right. We are omitting this portion for OSHA purposes.
Oh man, you want to hit these rapid fires, Andy?
Yeah, let's go. We got some rapid fire. Do rapid fire questions. Okay, ready, Pedro. You don't know what these are. We didn't tell you about them. Rapid fire. First thing that comes to your mind. Are you ready?
Yeah, go for
Question 1. Favorite food. Go.
it. Rice and beans, good Brazilian. Rice, beans, and steak.
Nice.
That's simple enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Favorite car?
Favorite car? Oh my God. Jeep.
What kind of Jeep? I'm gonna hear about this.
You wanna? What's the name of the? I don't know
The Wrangler or
it's
like the
Corolla?
Cherokee?
No, kind of the Wrangler. kind of
Okay,
the Wrangler.
if you would have said
They
that
jump
new truck one, I would have had to end the stream right now.
No. They jump like a mule, but it's good. Like.
Yeah.
I could see you. Remember that scene in Terminator 2 when, or Terminator 1 when Sarah Connor's driving that old Wrangler down the dusty road? I can picture you in that driver's seat, just hair blowing in the wind. Speaking of which, you
Or
cut your
Sarah
hair.
Connor. It's the really thing. Yes, it's gone for a
What?
year.
Why? That's another rapid fire. Why'd you cut your hair?
It happens every year.
Okay.
I hate haircuts, but
It was pretty epic. It was like a Pantene Pro V hot oil type of commercial. You look like some kind
Oh
of
my
hair
God,
model
yeah.
of Vidal Sassoon figurehead. Okay, third rapid
But
fire
yeah.
question in 3, 2, 1. Hidden talent. Go.
hidden talent. Oh my God. What am I good at? I don't know, Andy. Chess, maybe?
Okay.
Hidden?
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that, so it's
Yeah.
hidden to me.
It's hidden. It's hidden. Well, if you look at me at some meets, if I'm in a corner, I'm probably playing. If I'm hiding from someone, I'm probably playing chess.
That wasn't Candy Crush?
No, it wasn't Candy
Okay.
Crush.
Yeah.
Never played that before. I hate that.
Okay, man. What can I say? I'm glad you're able to join us for this episode, and It's good to see you
Thanks,
again.
guys.
First of all, I
Yeah, we
haven't
really
seen you
appreciate
in a
it.
long time. The last 2 or 3 meets, I'm like, Pedro's not here. I said it like a sad child, like, where's Pedro?
Yeah, I was trying to
I
think
miss
of the
you guys
last
pretty
time.
good.
Yeah, the last time I saw, it may have been Memphis. The last time I saw you.
Yeah,
Oh,
Nationals.
Really?
Yeah,
That's a
or
long time
maybe
ago.
But
where
he
was
wasn't in
American
San
Open?
Diego.
I was,
I was not in San Diego. Yeah.
were you in Daytona, Pat?
Oh yeah, I was in Daytona. That's right.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Daytona it is September. Yeah, I love you guys. I love what you do for USA weightlifting too. It's amazing. I mean, and talking about like modules and talking about standardization, I just love what's happening and how reliable you guys came to be in the end too. I just
Well,
love
thanks. That warms my
Yeah.
heart.
that.
And I'll pass it on to Ryan and Hala, the Lifting Life creators.
Please,
They'll be happy
Please
to hear
do.
that too. All right. Well,
Please
I
do.
think Patrick's gonna close us out here.
Yep. Again, we appreciate your time, Pedro. But thank you
Thanks,
everyone
guys.
again for listening to the Keep Pulling podcast. You can find previous episodes on our website, keeppulling.com, and make sure to follow us on social media. We're at Keep Pulling, at LiftingLife, and feel free to follow at USA_weightlifting also.
Yeah.
Like what
Thanks
you
for
hear, drop
joining
us a
us.
review on iTunes. Thank you again.
All right, guys.
Thanks,
We'll
guys.
see you next time.